Cuphead is known for two things. The first is its incredibly unique hand-drawn 30s art style that just oozes charm and creativity from every scene, music track, and sound effect. The second is that it's freaking impossible. But you know what? Doing all these challenges as of late really must have helped me improve my gaming prowess or something, cause the new Cuphead DLC, the Delicious Last Course, honestly didn't pose too much of a challenge for me. I don't know, I just feel a little too powerful being able to actually properly control my character. And I just need to like delete one of the buttons or something, just to feel something, anything. So what the heck, let's tack on our patented artificial flavoring to this bad boy and ask ourselves the all-important question. Is it possible to beat Cuphead's Delicious Last Course without ever jumping? The rules are super simple in this one. The jump button, gone. Although this definitely ensures that we won't be doing too much jumping throughout the challenge, it also removes our ability to parry and drop through platforms. And yeah, neither of those things really deserve to be banned, but let's just call it a bit of added spice. So with all the formalities out of the way, let's officially begin. Oh wait, actually before anything, spoiler alert, obviously, I'm gonna be beating the game, which necessitates that I beat the bosses, you know, including the final one. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I really don't know what you expected this video to be, but there's your warning, I guess. For the sake of structure, I'm going to be running through all the individual fights in order from easiest to hardest, as this is a boss gauntlet game, so there's not much actual level progression. That being said then, it's quite fitting that the fight we start off on, and therefore the easiest, doesn't even let us jump if we want it to. That's right, there's exactly one plain level in this DLC, and it's a welcome addition to this challenge, as the only thing we're banned from doing is parrying. And I'm gonna be honest, I never do that anyway. Unfortunately, however, with that fight out of the way, we only have platforming levels left to go. So I suppose now is when the challenge truly begins. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure if this fight is actually the easiest, or if I had just a little too much practice from when this was a no-shooting challenge instead. However, despite being the easiest among the platforming fights, it certainly isn't anything to sneeze at. Remember that I not only can't jump here, but I also can't drop through this platform, meaning that, for the first two phases, I'm gonna be forced to stay on this middle layer, which makes dodging quite a bit harder. So, in order to aid in that regard, I made sure to equip the Smoke Bomb charm, which makes Cuphead's dash completely invincible. This is an insanely important part of this challenge, as it's the only other way, aside from jumping, to dodge many of the things that are going to be flung my way. A good example of this coming into great effect is during this second phase. You're usually supposed to circle around the entire screen in order to dodge these sound waves when they turn red, but timing the smoke bomb allows us to just barely get through them. With that, we can quite feasibly make it to the third phase, where we see yet another one of the incredible tools in my arsenal, the Invincibility Super. We can build up cards in the bottom left here over time by constantly doing damage. And once we get 5, we can use one of 3 super abilities. 2 of them just do damage, which isn't too special, but the second one that I have equipped provides a brief period of complete invincibility, which has quite a bit of utility for this challenge. In this case, it's nowhere near necessary, I just used it for some quality of life, but we'll soon see its significance in the fights to come. And with all that, our first real boss has been defeated. But like I already said, this one was only the beginning. Next up, we got the Ice Wizard, and he's a bit of an interesting case. The first couple phases here really aren't a big issue at all, just some of that smoke bomb dodging that we're gonna have to get used to. But the final phase poses the first truly daunting obstacle in this challenge. Dreaded platforms. The screen does eventually scroll up when these appear, at which point you can actually bounce off the bottom of the screen at the expense of a little bit of health, but it doesn't do so until you jump up a couple of the platforms. This means that we gotta find some way of getting direct height off of completely flat ground. But don't worry, cause we're in luck. For saving up our cards and using the Invincibility Super here not only gives just barely enough initial height to reach this second platform and make the screen start scrolling, but it also lets us bounce off the bottom of the screen without having to take that damage tax. This trick gives access to the moving platforms that we'll have to traverse for this final phase. And although it's certainly much more dangerous without jumping, with a little bit of finesse, it can still absolutely be done. This next fight is, I suppose, technically a plane fight? But unfortunately, this time we're not the ones behind the wheel, making it a much more complicated process. The plane we're standing on tilts based on where on it we stand, and since we have to move back and forth in order to have enough space to occasionally dash through projectiles, this makes our trajectory fairly difficult to control, especially as we move into the second phase. It's also worth noting that at this point in the challenge, any unintentional damage is pretty much an instant failure. This is because starting with this fight, we're going to be forced to take some damage at certain points, so we can't waste our health in spots where it's technically unnecessary to get hit. For this fight in particular, the third phase is what really seals the deal in that regard. Every cycle of this phase is prefaced with this laser attack, and although the position of the lasers is random, the last one always expects us to jump, which to us means we're taking damage. Unless, of course, you got some of that invincibility laying around. The fact that we're taking damage every single cycle also means that we now have to end the fight as quickly as we can, so we endure as few of those laser attacks as possible. I'm not entirely sure of the best weapon for DPS, but the breakaway gun that I've been primarily using thus far seems to do the trick pretty dang well. It does great damage up close, but it also has a weaker homing shot if you miss, which is great when I have to turn my attention away from shooting in order to dodge some attacks. And with a bit more shooting and a bit more dodging, but certainly no jumping, these guys went down just like the rest of them. So far in the challenge, we've actually been doing pretty well, despite the obstacles that have been coming our way. However, at this point, you can probably see how the upscale in difficulty is starting to shape up. Every fight isn't just a new challenge. It's a compound of a new challenge, plus everything we've dealt with up to that point. Smoke bomb dodging turned into smoke bomb dodging and difficult platforming, which turned into smoke bomb dodging and difficult platforming and damage boosts. So it makes sense then that the hardest of the normal bosses in this area is an absolute gauntlet of all these tricks when pushed to their absolute extreme. This is the goddamn gnome fight. Immediately we're in an insanely rough spot. The ground here, if you didn't notice, is made out of spike gnomes, and if you ever fall down, there is no way back up. This means that the entirety of this first phase has to consist of traversing these platforms, which rise and fall completely at random. Couple that with having to dodge a metric ton of projectiles, especially during the smoke attack, and you got an extremely difficult first phase. Oh, and by the way, I'm not allowed to take any damage here, because the third phase requires that I have completely full health. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Once we get to the second phase, there's certainly much less platforming to worry about, but again, I still can't take damage, so relaxing here is a big mistake. I actually switched to the triple shot weapon here, mostly because it pierces through these gnomes that pop out of the ground. The breakaway shot tends to get distracted by these guys, which greatly decreases its damage output, and less damage means a slower kill, which means more time to potentially get hit. But with those two phases out of the way, it's time to begin the fight's climax in the giant's stomach. We start off with some platforms to stand on, but they're eventually gonna run out, and the only way to bring them back is by parrying these bells, which isn't an option for us. So instead, we have to stall for as long as possible before they all get deleted, at which point I continue to stay alive by expending both of my health points and the invincibility I've stored up in order to barely have enough time to finish them off for good. This fight is absolutely relentless, and I'm serious when I say that I'm pretty sure you need all of your health stored up, because this is what my attempts with only 2 health ended up looking like. But despite all that, the fight remains possible, meaning we only have one more to go. The chef guy here, this island's final boss, is actually quite different from the last one, in that it actually isn't that much of a gauntlet in any sense. The first few phases, although certainly very hectic, aren't anything special as far as this challenge goes. Rather, the reason this is the hardest fight in the challenge is because of the final threat that it presents. One last stretch of moving platforms that, even with all my health, stored invincibility, and just as much stalling and DPS as I can manage, doesn't even look close to possible. The final hurdle in the challenge, after everything we've done up until now, just barely out of our reach. I'll be honest, at this point, Cuphead just didn't seem possible. So you know what? Let's stop playing Cuphead. Aw, heck yeah! This is Miss Chalice, the new character added to this DLC via a charm. Up until now, I've completely ruled her out as an option, as it would require us to get rid of our all-powerful smoke bomb. That was until I remembered that she just naturally has an invincible dash of her own. In addition, there are also a few other key properties of this character that blow this challenge wide open. The first is her extra bit of health, which we all know is incredibly valuable to have. But another, more interesting aspect of this character is the fact that she can parry by dashing. Previously, we weren't able to parry at all, so now that it's available through an option that we can actually do, we can reap the benefits of parrying, as they not only give us a little bit of height, but they also allow us to accumulate more cards. Which is important because of Miss Chalice's third main deviation from Cuphead, different supers. Now, different supers could have been catastrophic, as that means that invincibility is no longer an option. However, luckily she has what is effectively the next best thing, extra health generation. And although they don't stack, what we can do is use it once and then build up the cards to prepare for another in the final phase, giving us 2 extra hit points for a grand total of 6, 5 of which we'll absolutely need for damage boosting. It was going to be close. And with that, every boss in Cuphead's delicious last course has finally been defeated, without the need to jump. Oh wait, hold on, there's also this extra secret boss apparently that you can fight by doing this weird graveyard puzzle. He's like super easy though, no platforms or anything. So yeah, there we go. Now they're all dead, I think. Unless you also want to count the arena guys, but come on, those guys are like super impossible, don't even worry about them. Anyway, welcome to the end of the video. I know this one's a little shorter than I'm used to, it is just a DLC after all, so although it was very difficult, there wasn't that much actual stuff to do. That being said, if you want to see me try this challenge with the full game, go ahead and let me know in the comments, although I'll tell you now, there's no way the B fight is doable in any universe. I just now thought of that. If you liked the video and you want to see more like it, then you're in luck, because I love doing these types of things. So all you gotta do is subscribe, and wow, you'll be able to find my videos in the future. It's crazy. For now though, yeah, I'm heading out.